Hi, I'm Giacomo, mixologist and sommelier. Today I'm going to show you how to blind taste wine and to go through all the process and until the conclusions. So in order to do so, you need a bottle of wine, something that you don't know what it is. This one was picked by my wife. I asked her, however, to buy a bottle of wine that we consume usually, any kind of wine in a range of 10 different bottles pretty much, to make it a little bit more approachable. Glass of wine, 3 ounces, 3-4 ounces max. Some water to clean your palate while you taste wine, and a cup to spit. Alright, so one thing that I use is the Court of Master Sommelier deductive tasting form. It's very easy to find on Google. You can. It's the first result on image, I believe. So it's very easy to find, and it helps a lot during the process, especially if you're new to this. Let's start. So the first thing that we care about is the color of the wine. In this particular case, the color of my wine is ruby, dark ruby, and not brilliant. It's a bit cloudy actually. It's not super clear. It's clear, but it's not super clear. In order to understand if it's clear, it's easier to put something underneath the wine and see if you can read the words. Something like this. I can read the words, so it's partially clear. So we said dark ruby, clear, partially clear, and some sort of medium deep. There we go. The second thing that we're gonna analyze is the smell through our nose, through our senses. So for me, the best way to smell wine is to actually close your eyes and keep your mouth open. In that way, you exclude everything else. You don't get distracted by other things around you. And somehow the mouth open helps you with the smell. It stays longer inside your nose. But everybody has their own way. This is what I do. Okay, so through the process, you're gonna have a lot of different indicators. You're gonna have a lot of different things that you're smelling inside the glass. This particular piece of paper helps you a lot clarifying what you smell. But for me, I tend to put the first 2-3 things that I smell, and that's it. I don't put more than 5, let's say, because after that it gets more confusing. I suggest to keep the first 3 things that you smell. And I definitely smell red fruit, possibly strawberry, raspberry, and blackberry. Those will be like red fruit. That's the first 3 things that I smell in this particular glass of wine. Blackberry, and raspberry. It's also important to find out what condition is the fruit you are smelling. Is it fresh fruit? Is it maybe a little bit cooked or baked? Maybe it's well, why not? It could be also like something very aged, like very mature. I personally smell fresh fruit. In this particular wine, I smell fresh fruit right away. yeah, it's like being in a forest. It's just picked out of the branch. Okay, fresh. Now the palate. The palate, it's where for me things get interesting. It's keep in mind that it's not like there's really no wrong or right answer. It's just a difference between senses. Like a different person can smell or taste something different from me. It's a personal experience. Oops. So, in my experience, the best way to taste wine is to spit. Not the entire glass, but I find that when you spit, there's a certain flavor remain in your mouth longer than when you swallow. And for me, it makes it easier to analyze what I have in the glass. All right, let's start with the first thing. The fruit that I'm tasting, it's pretty much the same fruit. I can tell you that there's a I taste more blackberry than strawberry right away. So blackberry. There's a bit of raspberry still, but it's less powerful than on the nose, and that's an important indicator, because the next thing is the condition of the fruit that I'm tasting. Now, for me, this is not fresh fruit. It doesn't taste like something that was just picked from a tree. I taste something that it tastes like something that it's a little bit like cooked, almost like not a jammy flavor, something more dry than a jammy flavor. So let's say cooked, and the wine is dry, in the meaning that there's no sweetness on the palate. I don't taste anything sweet, I don't taste any sugar, I don't taste, it's not a particular jammy wine, a particular sweet wine, it's very dry. Now, another part of the body of the wine, beside the palate, are the acidity and the tannin, were very important. So acidity in a wine, and it's how can I put it? It's the amount of salivation that I have after I taste a wine. Let's say that it's the amount of saliva left in my mouth after the wine is swallowed or spit. Acidity is a very important parameter. We'll talk about it later, but for me the acidity of the wine is fundamental to understand what can I pair the wine with. But we'll get there in a couple of minutes. Let's start with the acidity. So how do we recognize the acidity? There's a little trick that I use. It works for me 99% of the time, it works for many people. It's a bit disgusting, but it's also very effective. So what I do is that I drink a little bit of wine and I spit it in the cup, and then I let my saliva slide inside the cup. Based on the amount of the saliva that slides inside the cup and based on how fast it slides by the cup, you are kinda able to describe the acidity. Faster and bigger is the saliva coming down, higher is the acidity. So let's try. Oh, sorry. So this one is very acidic. I had a huge amount of saliva, it went down very fast. I know it's kind of disgusting, but it works, and the acidity in this case is high. Without doubts. Another important parameter is the tannin. The tannin is basically how dry is your mouth after the wine is gone, after you spit it or swallow it. A good example of a tanning beverage is black tea, like Earl Grey. Earl Grey is very tannic, it leave you almost completely dry out. That's an important parameter. We're gonna try it now. How tannic is this wine? And it's definitely there. So my mouth is quite dry after. Clearly, these two things, acidity and tannin, rarely are the same. Usually they're not the same. There are specific few cases where it can be the same, but I'm gonna put the tannin here at I would say a medium level. My mouth is not completely dry. It's there, but it's definitely not high as a black tea or a Nebbiolo grape, Barolo, for example. That's a classic example of tannin or high tannin wine. In any case, medium. And now the alcohol. So the alcohol is, well, I mean, it can be tricky, but it's usually straightforward. In this case, when I taste the wine, I swallow, because when I swallow the wine, I'm gonna have a sort of burning sensation in my chest. That's how that's how people usually measure alcohol. More is burning, higher is the alcohol. I think that the alcohol here is there, is quite there. I'm a pretty lightweight in terms, I don't drink much, but I can tell that this wine is alcoholic, but it's not super alcoholic wine, but it's quite high. I would say medium plus on alcohol, medium plus. It's not full body wine, but medium full body, yes. So medium plus. Okay. Now the conclusions. So in the conclusions, usually to make it fast but also effective, I consider 3 big parameters. One is the word of the wine, where it was made. It was made new world or old world. Usually new world is considered America. Everything that it's North America, South America, that's usually new world, along with Australia and Canada, and clearly everything pretty much beside Europe, and Europe is clearly old world. So there's a certain difference, there's many difference between new world and old world. The classic difference, though, the one that sommelier usually use the most, at least at a certified level, not a master level, but on a certified I would say that it's a pretty useful indicator, is what you taste and what you smell. What's the difference between those two main parameters, nose and palate? So usually new world, which is it's not like a fixed rule, it helps, but there's nothing that it's a fixed rule in the wine world. But usually newer wine, it's fruitier on the nose, fruity on the palate, and we'll stop there. Sometimes we could say that it's also a little bit higher percentage in sugar compared to old world, but that's not a golden rule. That sometimes more like 60%, 40%, 70%, 30%, but sometimes it is. In any case, let's not use that, let's use the palate and the nose. The old world, the two things don't go in the same direction. You can smell something very fruity on the nose, very like fruit oriented, sometimes even like flower oriented, like something that gives the impression that the palate is going to be sweet, and it's not. It usually goes in the opposite direction or a slightly different direction, and the palate is not sweet at all. Usually it's dry, and it presents the fruits inside the two parameters present different characteristics. Here it's fresh, and for example, in this particular case, it's cooked. So for me, this wine, it's old world and not new world. It's made in a style that reminds me more old world than new world. So I'm gonna put old world. OW right there. Then another important parameter is the climate. The climate of the grape. When this grape was planted was in a country with hot climate, cool climate. So a good indicator for that, it's usually the alcohol. Not always, but usually for the level of this class, we can go with the alcohol. From a warm climate. W. There we go. And another thing that I like, that it's quite necessary to understand what kind of wine this might be, it's the year of the wine. And a good way to kinda understand how old is this wine is the color. For me, at least, I usually go back to the color and other parameters, how long the wine, after you swallow or spit, how long the flavors are still in your mouth, how long they taste, it's another very good indicator. But let's start with the simple one. The color, it's ruby, it's slightly cloudy. It's not particular, it's not super opaque, but there's a certain opacity. It's not completely clear. But there's nothing that suggests me a big age in terms of color. It's not like a brick color that you will have in wines that are like 10 years old. Red wines were 10 years old. The red tends to become some sort of a brick color. I don't see it here. And let's see how long it lasts in your mouth after you spit. It's pretty powerful. It's still dancing around my mouth a little bit. It's a little bit it's still there. I'm gonna say this wine is not older than 3 years. It's not older than 3 years. I would say 3, maybe 4 years, but I don't think this wine is 5 years old. I may be wrong, but we'll see. Let's say 3 years. 3. Why? Okay. So now the fun stuff. Now we're gonna try to guess what this wine is, which grape is, if it's a grape or a blend. And by the way, this is not exactly the final. This is not what you should be aiming for. It's important, but this is not like a way to just get the grapes. This is more important for other things for me. This is a good representation of what you should pair with this wine in terms of food. We're gonna put 3 possible grapes. You could put 5. You could put more than 3. But the entire process, there's more use to this process than just guessing the grape. The grape is a fun thing to do. It's important. That's not the final mission in this thing. In any case, based on these parameters and based on my experience, for me this wine could possibly be dark ruby, clear, deep. So this wine, for me, it's an old world wine. That I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that it's not from the new world. I'm pretty sure it's from the old world, because of the main difference between nose and palate. There are two different things. The nose is different from the palate. It goes in the opposite direction. The fruit that I taste is cooked. It's not fresh. It's very different from what I smell. So I'm gonna say that this wine is from the old world. I know that the alcohol is medium plus. So because it's a medium plus wine, I can already exclude certain grapes. I'm pretty sure that I can exclude Pinot Noir, for example, from Pinot Noir from the old world. It's usually less alcoholic than this. This is a powerful wine. What else I can exclude? I probably can exclude Gamay. from France. I don't think it's Gamay from France because of the color, which is quite deep, because of the alcohol, because of the flavors are completely different. I'm gonna say that the acidity and the tannin are high and medium. That for me, my experience, is a big indicator what this wine could be. These two things usually, in my experience, don't get so close to each other. The palate are the fruits. So these kind of fruits, they're pretty common in red wine, but not super common. My first guess is gonna be raspberry. My guess is gonna be Italy. It's gonna be maybe high, medium plus. Actually, no. My first guess is gonna be Merlot. Merlot from France. It tastes like red wine. There's certain parameters that are not there, but it could be Merlot from France. I'll put Merlot. One is Merlot. Okay, another possible grape could be an Italian grape, and I kind of want to say Sangiovese. It's missing certain things that are Sangiovese, but he also has some characteristics of the Sangiovese. He's missing some of the fruit and the vegetables from the Sangiovese. You will find more cooked tomato or tomato leaf in the Sangiovese. You will find more like a meaty character, but certain things are there. Let me try again. Yeah. No, it could be. Oh no. Okay, you know what? Let's put four. Let's put 4 grapes. Sangiovese. I'm gonna guess another grape from France. It's a pretty important grape, Grenache, by the way. And the characteristic of this particular grape, for the climate, it's from a warm climate. There's some of this fruit in the climate, but I'm missing other things. This grape is using a blend in France. The blend is called the appellation of this particular wine is Châteauneuf du Pape, which is one of the most important appellations in the world from France. It might be that it's missing certain things, but it also makes me think about it for different reasons. Okay, let's stop there. Let's see what it is. There we go. So this grape is Grenache. It's Cannonau di Sardinia. It's a type of Grenache. It's Grenache from Sardinia in Italy. This one is from Selle Mosca. It's one of my favorite wine and producer. My wife knows me. And I drink it quite a lot. Let's talk about the important stuff, which is the food pairing. What this wine goes with. I think in Europe we tend to drink way more during the meals. Wine, at least, during the meals. And my approach with the old world, for me, old world wine is something that you have during a meal. New world wine is something that you can enjoy even by itself. You don't necessarily need to have a meal. It's already a meal. It's very sweet most of the time, high content in sugar, very full body, or even like the flavors are very rich. It's usually newer wine I find it richer than old world wine, so I tend to pair it less, or I find that it's enjoyable by itself more. In any case, let's go with the food pairing. So Grenache, because of this particular acidity in this particular wine, I find that it's a very useful grape. You can pair Grenache, or at least I would pair this particular wine with a lot of different kind of food. The first thing that I would pair this with is hard cheese, aged cheese, like pecorino from Sardinia, maybe with a little bit of nuts and raisins. salumi board as well. If you can make a salumi and cheese board with mix, that would be perfect. That's, for me, that's one of the main pairing and one of my favorite pairing with this kind of wine. With this particular wine, you can also have it with pizza, for example, if it's a rich pizza, something like quattro formaggio, something with pepperoni, something that has a lot of fat and protein because of the high alcohol, but also the high acidity. And you can pair it with steak, pork, like braised pork from Sardinia, classic dish, or even like a steak in a steakhouse in North America. And it goes well with a lot of things. I would not pair this wine, and that's my personal opinion. Everybody has their own taste, but I would personally not pair this wine with seafood. I would do something a little bit more delicate and buttery. With salad, I wouldn't pair this wine. With something light, I wouldn't pair this wine with something light. This wine you can also pair with like baked sweet potato or beets, even something that is hearty. It works with this wine. But yeah, I would stay away from seafood, salads. Not, for me, it's not a good pairing. Or soft cheese, like very young cheese, not aged. Not the best, I think. But everyone their own taste. Yeah, that's it. That was pretty much how I do my tasting in wine. The important thing here is the process. Keep in mind, and process and how you get to these particular conclusions. The hard thing in this process is to not be open-minded. You have to be open-minded. You can't start and arrive at the palate and think that you already knows what the wine is. That's the worst thing you can do in this particular case, because then you're gonna stick with the idea until the end that, oh no, it's that particular grape, because I think that this particular wine is particular grape. 90% of the time, that's wrong. So it's very important to arrive at this conclusion after you do this. That's, for me, is the hardest part, and is the one that actually requires practice, a lot of practice, and also understanding that wine is really not a science. It's a personal experience. Tasting, it's even more fun with different people, with a group of people, because everybody has their own point of view, and based on the final conclusions. Based on the final conclusion, you get a better experience overall. You get other people's point of view. That's always a better experience. Then you can make it fun. You can make it, let's see who got the right grape and stuff like that. But for me, the main thing of this is to understand what's the use that I have for this wine. Do I want it by itself? Do I want it with food? Which kind of food? Which kind of occasion? That's it. I'm Giacomo. Please follow and share, and cheers. Bye.